When you think about making maple syrup, you probably just picture a tap in a tree, right? Simple. But what if I told you it's actually a long-term partnership, a kind of stewardship where every single decision we make, well, it's remembered by that tree for decades? Let's really get into that.
You know, it's a thought that crosses pretty much everyone's mind when they're standing in front of a big, beautiful maple with a drill in their hand. It seems so small, so insignificant. It's just one hole. I mean, what's the big deal?
Okay, but here's the thing that changes the entire game. That one little hole is permanent. A tree doesn't heal a wound the way our skin does. It can't just grow new tissue over it. No, it has to heal around it, sealing off that piece of its history forever. There are no do-overs.
So how do we make sure we get this right from the very beginning? Well, we're going to walk through 5 key steps together. First, really understanding the permanence of that hole. Then, how to choose the right tree to partner with. We'll talk about why you have to measure before you tap, master the actual art of drilling, and finally, discover the wisdom in just holding back a little.
So yeah, let's really dig into that first point. Tapping isn't just a quick harvest. Not at all. It's a decision with consequences that get written, literally, into the wood of the tree for the rest of its life. The biology behind this is actually pretty fascinating. It's a process called compartmentalization. The tree essentially builds a fortress wall around the tap hole, sealing off that damaged tissue forever. That section of wood will never transport sap again, which is exactly why our technique, our care, is so incredibly important.
All right, so that leads us right into the next big step. Before you even think about drilling, you have to choose the right partner. And trust me on this one, when it comes to maples, they are definitely not all created equal.
Here are the big 4 you're most likely going to run into. You've got your sugar maple, your red, the silver, and the black maple. The species you pick is going to determine everything that follows, from how sweet the sap is to how well the tree can even handle the stress of being tapped in the first place.
And this chart breaks it down perfectly. The sugar and black maples, those are your gold standard. They're high in sugar, super tolerant, they're the workhorses of the maple world. Red maples, they're a decent alternative, but they're a little more sensitive. And then you have the silver maple. Now it's tempting because the sap can really flow, but the sugar content is low and the wood is soft, so the long-term risk to the tree is pretty high. It's best to tap those very sparingly or honestly just avoid them.
Okay, so you've found a gorgeous sugar maple. You're ready to tap, right? Not so fast, because the most common mistake people make happens right here. It's not about how old a tree looks, it's all about its structure and its size.
The industry standard for this is something called DBH, which stands for diameter at breast height. It's a really simple, consistent measurement you take about 4.5 feet up from the ground. That number is what tells you if the tree has enough healthy, functional sapwood to safely handle a tap. And here it is, rule number 1, this is the big one, it's non-negotiable. If that tree's diameter is less than 10 inches, you walk away, period. No exceptions. The sapwood layer is just too thin, and tapping it can cause damage that it might never, ever recover from.
Now, once you've got a tree that's between 10 and 17 inches in diameter, it can handle exactly 1 tap. That is the maximum. If you try to push it with a second one, you're just overwhelming its ability to heal properly and wall off that wound.
And what about those really big, mature trees, 18 inches or more? The safe limit is still just 2 taps. Now, you might see some old charts out there that suggest a 3rd tap is okay, but believe me, long-term producers and all the modern research agree the extra stress on the tree just isn't worth the tiny little bit of extra sap you might get. It's a classic case of diminishing returns.
All right, now we get to the fun part, the drill. And I just love this subtitle. Tapping is controlled damage. It's not guesswork, it's not random. It's a very precise procedure. And it's all designed to minimize harm and maximize the tree's ability to bounce back.
It really boils down to 3 critical things you have to get right, and this visual lays them out perfectly. The angle you drill at, how deep you go, and where you place that hole in relation to old taps from previous years. So let's break each one down.
First up, the angle. You want a slight upward tilt, maybe 5 to 10 degrees. This just helps the sap flow out nice and clean. Second, depth. You're aiming for just 1.5 to 2 inches into the sapwood. If you go any deeper, you risk hitting the heartwood, which doesn't even produce sap and heals very poorly. And finally, placement. Think of the tree trunk like a clock. Every year, you rotate to a new, clean section of bark, making sure you stay at least 6 inches to the side and 12 inches above or below any old tap holes you can find.
And listen, this is so important. How do you prevent the irreversible damage of drilling too deep? With a surprisingly simple little tool,
a depth stop collar. It's just an inexpensive piece of metal that goes on your drill bit and guarantees you hit that perfect depth every single time. Honestly, think of it as a tiny investment to protect a relationship that could last for decades.
This brings us to what I think is really the heart of the whole thing. We've talked a lot about the how, but now let's focus on the why. This is all about a major mindset shift, from just extracting a resource to long-term stewardship.
You know, there's this old saying that perfectly captures the whole idea of sustainable tapping. I just love it. It's not about what you can take right now. It's about making sure that resource is healthy enough to give again tomorrow, and the year after that, and the year after that.
And so what do you get for all that care and restraint? You get this. A well-managed sugar maple can be a productive partner for 40 to 80 years, maybe even longer. That is an absolutely incredible return on your investment, but it only happens if you're willing to play the long game. So let's break down the beautiful math on this, the trade-off. Fewer taps today means more healthy, functional sapwood on the tree for tomorrow. More healthy sapwood means the sap that comes out actually has a higher sugar concentration. And higher sugar in the sap means less time boiling for you, better tasting syrup, and of course, a healthier, less stressed tree. Restraint doesn't just protect the tree, it protects your time and makes your syrup better. It's a total win-win.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? Whether it's the kind of tree you choose, the measurements you take, the way you drill, or how many taps you put in, every single one of those decisions is recorded in the wood. The trees respond slowly, honestly, to the care you give them. They remember what you do long after the season's over.